Welcome to the channel, everyone. This video I'm going to talk about picks and their uses. Now, start with, this here is probably the most common type of pick that body technicians will have. I don't know if there's a technical term for that, but I've always called them just a pick. And this one here, actually I've got 3 of these that are all the same size, and I modified 2 of them. This one here you can see, this one I haven't touched, and it's just a rounded edge on there. A lot of times I'll put 3-4 layers of tape on there, duct tape or masking tape, and you got less chance of stretching the metal too much or maybe even cracking the paint. So that's my probably number 1 that I use. The other one that's the same thing basically, but I sharpened this up with a grinder and I made a point on it, and you can get in there to sharper creases and you'll put the pressure in a lot smaller area and you can work out creases a little bit better. You just have to watch, if you don't want to crack the paint, this isn't the one to use. But usually if you're using these, you're going to be sanding and filling anyway. But if there's an area that you really don't want to crack the paint on and have to worry about feathering it out and cleaning it up, this isn't the one to use. But it does a nice job on real sharp, tight creases. And this one here is actually my oldest one. And what I've done to this, you can see the bend in it. I just bend this. I'll put it in my vise and I'll put a kink in it, straighten it out, whatever I need to do to get it to fit whatever I need it to fit. And you can see it's got a little bit more of a curve to the other ones. And you're usually backing this up against something and prying with the tip. So I'll bend that as I need it depending on the contour of the panel I'm trying to work on. I've got one here, it's like a chisel tip on it. This come in a set of them. I think 3 of these were a set that I bought years ago. I've never really found any use for that. I've tried it on creases and stuff thinking it may spread the pressure out, but I've never really found much use for this. Other one is just a lot shorter. You can get it in a little tighter places, but it doesn't mean that you're gonna, like the longer one here, it doesn't really mean you're gonna reach in farther and do something, because you still want to push right on this area and pry. If you're trying to push, use this for your fulcrum point, you don't have enough leverage from here to here to get much pressure on here. But if you've got limited access and you can get in here and you can pry from here to here, it does work good. And then the other one is just a big heavy duty one, and this one here, it'll do some damage. It'll crack the paint. It's thin and it's narrow. It'll crack stuff. But this here, it has a bigger dimension here, so you can fit it into a bigger opening, maybe inside of a door in some places, inside a quarter panel with the wheelhouse, and you can push in there and you can get a lot of pressure. You can also do a lot of damage. Probably the tools I use the most for small dents aren't even made for dents. They're a mechanics tool. This is a radiator hose removal tool. These are cotter pin removal tools. I'm not sure, that might be, it's similar to a radiator hose. But these are good for getting into little holes and deck lids and hoods, and you can snake them in there and you can twist. And now the hole has to be pretty close to the dent because you're not going to reach too far in there. But they do a real good job. And then there's just the everyday screwdrivers. And I use this thing a lot because it's thin enough. You can slide it in between panels like a hood or a deck lid where you got the ribbing or the webbing on the back side. And it's thinner than these picks, but you can reach in there and you can either twist it some or you can pry on it. So these work good. I also use these fork tools, these trim removal tools, because if you've got access with something to back it up against, you can get in there and twist on these. So let me show you how I use some of these. All right, if you've got a deck lid and you've got some damage here in this lower corner, and you got a little bit of access here, but maybe not quite what you need, I'll use these pick tools and go in here and you can push up. You can move around. You're kind of unlimited to what you can do here because you can hit this every little point that you need to. You can get in there and put pressure on it. These cotter pin tools, you can put those in there and then twist on them, and you can see by twisting up you can work on a dent that way. So the same thing, you're kind of unlimited to the amount of areas that you can push on with these. It's just, you're just limited to having a hole in the right spot, but they do work nice. A little bit longer one here. You can sometimes even reach in a little bit farther, and you can reach quite a ways up into here, and you can control it pretty good because you can see on top side what you're doing. And sometimes coming from the underneath here, it's a little bit awkward. You're sliding on this panel, you don't have it, it's hard to get pressure because it wants to slide out. So these work real good. Now also, I said this pick here, this long pick, you can get this into here and you can push out on the quarter panel. You can wedge them in, and actually you can twist on them and you can get pressure, and you have to be able to see the outside of the panel to see what you're doing. You don't want to cause more damage by doing it blindly, just looking inside. But all these picks, it's just like your hammers and spoons and dollies. One tool doesn't do everything, so I've got several of them, not a lot, but I usually can get everything done that I need to. All right, I've got a dent going across here, and I'm going to show you what the pick will do. Now, it's not that big of a dent, and I know a lot of technicians would say, I'm not even going to mess with that, I'm just going to fill it. But those guys probably wouldn't be watching this channel, and you are, so I'm going to show you how it would work. There's an access hole on the back side. This is a hood. I think it's I'm not even sure what it is, a little Honda or something. And I hope it shows up on the video. You have to use an overhead light so you can get a reflection on this thing so you can watch what you're doing. And I'm going to start from the back side and work up. And just do a little at a time. I don't want to do it all at once. I want to work along it, do a little at a time from one end to the other. The same way when you're taking a crease out of a panel with a hammer and dolly. You don't need to do it all in one shot or the first time. But you get the idea. I hope it shows up on the video, but you have to put a little pressure on it, bring it up a little higher because it's going to spring back. Okay, now that area there, pick isn't quite reaching it, so I'm going to try this screwdriver. And that seems to be working pretty good. A little at a time. Okay, so you get the idea. Okay, if you heard a bunch of background noise, there was just a huge cloud burst. It just poured here for about a minute. So let me show you what I did. Now when I started out with this pick, I couldn't get the pick in this way because the clearance underneath the hood was too tight. So the pick goes in sideways and I pry up on it like this as I go, because just not enough room to do it this way. So actually it fits in a hole down here. I don't even know if you can see, it might be kind of dark. And I just slide it in here and I would just roll it over and move it from front to back. And I couldn't reach all the way in the front with the pick, so that's when I used a screwdriver, and there I did. I put it in and I did push up because I had enough room there. So that's how that works. But anyway, that gives you an idea of how these pick works, what you can do with them. So, and like any tool, I said, you'll use several different kinds of these, but use anything you got in your toolbox. Screwdrivers, fork tools, anything that'll fit in an area where you can get a little bit of leverage to move metal. It doesn't really matter what it is. I mean, you could use an old wrench if that's what fits. But anyway, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, and thanks for watching.